come out here and keep talking economics. Got to talk about this inflationary pressure that we are now feeling. And everybody is talking about it. It seems the news articles are just running relentlessly. Every single thing that I am reading right now is all talking about inflation expectation running persistently high, and how it is that the Federal Reserve is losing control, doesn't know what they're doing, screwing it all up. And everybody is on the same page when it comes to this. Very few people have internalized this information in the way that I have, in a sense that the Federal Reserve was looking for, wanted, and expecting elevated inflation and inflation expectations. So when I see it running rampant throughout the economy and within the people's mindsets, and how it is that they are calling it out and making these YouTube posts and making these Twitter posts, and everybody's pushing up on this idea that there's all this crazy inflation that's coming down, I really have to think to myself, what has really changed in the last 48 hours to have this wave of inflation expectation to hit us, other than the Federal Reserve delivery of a particular comment, right? See, that's the difference inside of it. People 48 hours never would have made these posts. They never would have had those YouTube videos, never would have said any of that stuff until Jerome Powell spoke his words, and then they lost. Don't tell me it's not the communication that is doing it. Right? 48 hours, you didn't know anything about it, didn't hardly hear it, nobody cared. And then here it is, man, it's just all over the place. Inflation, right? So, considering the credible threat theory, what is it that we are facing right now as far as the problems that needed to be solved? Like, the Federal Reserve is facing a major issue right now. Inflation is running rampant. Everybody knows it. Just look at all the news articles. And now, how is it that they are going to solve this problem? Because this is a major problem that they have to deal with. Now, something interesting is that this problem, this persistently high inflation, actually was addressed by John Williams back in 2018. Ironically, the problem we need to solve these days is a risk of inflation that is persistently too low rather than too high. Right? So here it was a few years ago. John Williams was saying, oh man, the inflation expectation is persistently too low. You know what we need is inflation that is persistently too high. If we had inflation that was persistently too high, our problem would be solved. The problem we need to solve these days is a risk of inflation that is persistently too low, right? Meaning that they need it to be too high. So I go to Powell's speech that was delivered August of 2020. But of course, now it doesn't want to come up. Oh, come on now. I go to Powell's speech. There it is. All right. Oh, it's still not coming up. It's weird. Well, in Powell's speech of August of 2027, which for whatever reason my computer decided that it's not going to want to open it up right now, in that speech he had pretty much laid it all out in a very long, detailed idea of what was that was taking place with R star being too close to the lower bound of zero. Now, understanding that when the lower bound of zero is achieved, the Federal Reserve has no more downward adjustment in their monetary policy in order to conduct an interest rate adjustment. They hit that lower bound of zero. Now, with the problem that they faced is that R star was also very close to zero, meaning that there was no downward adjustment that was capable of actually stimulating the economy. Without hitting that lower bound of zero, they would have to go negative. And going negative was not an option. So the only way to deal with the fact that they were operating at the lower bound of zero with no downward adjustment to stimulate the economy was to be able to have a reflationary period, where inflation run extra hot, extra long for an extended period of time to make up for the fact that they failed to achieve the 2% target over the previous 10 years. Now, this is very difficult for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. To think, man, the Federal Reserve is going to release an inflationary pressure on purpose to make up for the fact that they failed to achieve a 2% target over the previous 10 years just blows people's mind. They're like, no way could this be the case. Go and Google it yourself. If you don't believe me, type it into AI anywhere. It's just like the Federal Reserve ran persistently below the 2% target for how many years after the great financial crisis? I mean, all that money printing failed to do it for them. This is sad. My computer is just totally failing on me. Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. Maybe it's coming back now. No. And so when you think about what it is that monetary policy needs in order to deal with the fact that they were operating at the lower bound of zero, is they need inflation. They absolutely are desperate for it. And not only do they need the inflation, they need it to be persistent. Not just for a little bit to make up for the fact that they failed to achieve the 2% target over the previous 10 years. And if they want to have an anchoring of 2%, then they actually have to be above 2% at some point to prove the fact that they would be. Because nobody actually believed that they would actually be at 2% inflation. And this is a very real problem. I don't know how many people knew this. See, this is some of the information in which that most people out there, when they're discussing the Federal Reserve, are never, ever, ever going to bring up. Never. When was the last time that you ever heard a single economist tell you or explain to you how it is that the lack of inflation was the Federal Reserve's problem? Have you ever heard that from anybody? But yet here it is, the Federal Reserve has many speeches. Jerome Powell's speech given August of 2027. We got Bowman, Clarita. Who else? Brainerd in, December of 2025? All these people were talking about the fact that they failed to achieve the 2% target and that inflation was running persistently too low. So now here it is. We think about it. We have the Federal Reserve giving a statement yesterday that sent the people's mind blown, right? Blown. Nobody knows what to do. All of a sudden, gold's tumbling and prices are tumbling all over the place and nobody knows what the hell is going on. And it's just freaking everybody out. And there's Twitter posts all over the place. And I'm thinking, what was different 48 hours ago that you were making those posts then? Right? Outside of a statement, a communication coming from the Federal Reserve that sent your mind spinning. Now, the Uneducated Economist has been trying to explain how it is that they are using that exact tactic. Communications. How it is that they get those communications out there is incredibly important. How it is that people interpret that communication is the monetary policy. It's not the interest rate adjustments. I know for a lot of people that's difficult. They want it to be the interest rate adjustments. They really do, right? And if they focus in on it enough and they complain about it enough and if they talk about it enough, that becomes their reality. But very few people have ever really taken it into consideration that their expectation about that monetary policy adjustment is the monetary policy in itself. How it is that they think about it. If it wasn't for the fact that the statement was made yesterday, all the decisions that were made in the investment communities today would not have taken place like they did. It was the fact that they deployed that information. Am I right? I mean, it's how it goes down. And now knowing that they had communication tactics that were designed just for that, right? To allow the communications to either increase or decrease there we go. Textual communications from Jefferson, right? Says reactions to specific sentences communicated by the central bank are quickly incorporated into asset prices. No kidding. Did we not get an experience of that over the last 24 hours here? Let me read it again. Reactions to specific sentences communicated by the central bank are quickly incorporated into asset prices. Tell me that. This is the monetary policy. This is one of the FOMC, right? Federal Open Market Committee. This is Philip Jefferson, voting member on that committee, who has delivered a speech, was not even a year old. Okay, right about a year old, February 21st of 2025, saying we're going to use specific words and sentences to alter the asset prices. Do we not get, like, is this not the perfect example of that? How many people know that that's what they were going to do? I did. I've been saying it over and over again. How many people here have been watching it? About 1,000. 1,000 people who have really internalized this, who really understand that what happened yesterday was the monetary policy, your expectation manipulation of elevated inflation expectations. That's what it is. Raising the neutral interest rate, getting it ever closer to the Fed funds rate, and it's making the economy less restricted. I'm the only one who's going to tell you this. I've searched for it. I have looked all over the place for somebody else who has communicated even remotely close to what I have said. None. Zero. Except the Federal Reserve. Everything that I tell you comes directly from the Federal Reserve itself. All the rest of the Fed has just screwed you up. They're going to screw you over. They're going to do all that. That's the power, right? That's the power. And you're feeding it to them. Here you go, Federal Reserve. I believe your inflation expectations. I believe all that stuff. And here it goes. The neutral interest rate is going to make this whole lot less restricted for the top 10% of household incomes. 20% get a good shot at it too. The rest of us, we suffer the consequences. Policymakers know that their communications are likely to affect the course of short-term interest rates. Yeah, they are. You're right. You're absolutely right, Philip Jefferson. You're absolutely right. We got proof of it yesterday with Jerome Powell's speech on how your communications affect the course of short-term interest rates, asset prices, and the associated economic outlook. You're absolutely right, Philip Jefferson. You guys know exactly the words and sentences to use in order to create that outcome. Congratulations, you guys are super geniuses. And everybody fell for it. Literally everybody. 99.99999% of the people until you get here to the Uneducated Economist. Right? I mean, who else is telling you? Nobody. Literally nobody. Everybody wants you to fall for their stupid manipulation tactics that then gives the power to the rich. Everybody wants you to do that. Literally everybody, even the people who don't like them, right? Even the people who are pushing against them, saying, oh, we don't like the Fed, we don't like the government, we don't like any of this stuff. Look at the inflationary pressure that they are doing to you. And then that is the power that they needed. Straight up. Nobody else is going to explain it to you but me. And it's unfortunate, but that's okay. I'm relentless. I'm not giving up. I don't care who it is that calls me crazy or nuts or just repeating myself over and over again. When I see stuff like what's happened over the last 48 hours take place, especially the last 24, right? When I see that stuff going down, I'm thinking, man, if this is not the credible threat theory in action right now, and those of us who are very well aware of it can see it plain as day. It is so clear and obvious to us. It is just like, it doesn't, we don't even like, we look at all the people out there going, oh God, man, they are really just pushing it, aren't they? Pushing that elevated inflation. Make sure everybody believes it and just feeding it right to the Federal Reserve, all the power that they need. Elevate that neutral interest rate, make the less restricted. That's the monetary policy. Think about it. Lowering interest rates does what, right? It makes the economy less restricted. What does raising the neutral interest rate do? It makes the economy less restricted. It's the exact same thing, but people don't know it. That's not the exact same thing. It's kind of the same thing, but nobody knows it. Right? All right, what else do we need to break down here, guys? What else is it that I need to share with you so that we can get this credible threat theory out there to the rest of the world so they can get a better understanding of what is actually happening with monetary policy? Most people are going to miss this, right? Most are going to miss it. We're not. I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let you miss it either. All right. If we do the same that rich people do, buying assets like real estate and stocks, yes, we will have a better financial situation. But this economy bolstering assets above anything is not our advantage. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not our advantage, but then again, it's not for us to decide on what it is that's going to take place within this economy. We have to understand what it is that we're going to do with the fact that we have to deal with this particular economy within itself. You're right. It sucks. It's not a good idea for it to be this way. It's not it's not advantageous to us. All the strategy, I get it. But it's not up to us to figure that part out. Our part is to figure out what it is that these people are doing, what it is that's going on within the economy, how it is that we deal with this particular situation for ourselves, because we can't change anything that they're doing out there. You're right. It's not the way it should be. It's never going to be the way it should be. Never in a million years is it going to be the way it should be. All right? Because the way it should be for you is not the way it should be for that person over there. In fact, the way it should be for you is definitely not the way it should be for the rich, because right now the way it is the way it should be for the rich. So when you're in a position in which that you are actually taking advantage of the situation, then it doesn't matter what it is that's going on out there. Right? It's not advantageous, you're right. But then again, there's underlying economic forces that are playing out that doesn't give you the ability to make it this consistently stable for everybody all the time. It's not going to work like that. You got the Cantillon effect that's in play. It's going to go through the cycle. And it's better to just figure out where it is you are in that cycle. All right, this war is not good. You're right, it's not. Remember, you're not playing on the same playing field as these people. You're right. You're not in the same playing. You're not. I kind of disagree, right? I almost look at it like this: we're all out on the river together. Like, I live along the Columbia River, and we're all out on the river together. We're all dealing with the same weather, same river conditions. Everybody's dealing in the same things in that spot. But you might be in a 12-foot skiff, and then there's somebody else who's on a freighter. Now, I guarantee you, your experience in that 12-foot skiff out in the middle of the Columbia River during a storm is going to be a hell of a lot different than the guy who's up in the freighter who's just motoring his freight on up the river. Way different experience, same location, same thing, same conditions, all that other stuff. Don't even experience the same thing, right? And that's, I think, is a better analogy of what it is that we are experiencing. All right, 92 people are watching here. Go out and call all your friends, have them join in. Let's break this stuff down for everybody to enjoy. DK4, welcome to the jungle. All right. Out at sea. Remember Deja? Deja, email me your address. I'll send you a CD. I think I have one DVD left that I can send you. All right. Good analogy. Thank you. I think that is a good analogy. As long as gas is high, I have no reason to get a job. Might as well wait it out. Well, look, I don't know. Like, I guess maybe if you're spending all your money on gas, but to me, like, I don't waste one single day when it comes to the ability to earn money. Like, if somebody says, oh man, nah, I'll just wait till tomorrow to do that job. And I'm like, are you getting paid for it? Do it today, because then tomorrow you can earn some money. You can't make it up. Like, you can't, hold on one second, guys. This thing looks a little, yeah, that's a little clearer, right? Got a little foggy there. All right, you can't make it up. Like, if you earned, say, $100 today, and you earn $100 tomorrow, and then the next day you're like, I'm just going to skip this day because I've already worked too, and then the next day you earn another $100, well, now you have to make up that day that you missed, right? You don't have to. But if you don't, then you'll never be able to get that money back again, right? So now the next day you got to work, like, to make $200, you got to work twice as long or something. You'll never get that day back. And that's what's important. Like, if you can't, you have to, like, I don't care if I got paid $50,000 today, tomorrow I'm going to try and earn some more money, right? Like, there is never a day that I am not out there attempting to try and do it again, right? Every single day, all the time. Because you can't make it up. You can't, once it's gone, that time is gone forever. You only have so much time on this planet. And if you're not using it to acquire something in your life that is the benefit to you, your family, your experience, your future, or at least being mindful of the time that you are taking away from that to relax, to actually separate yourself from that experience, do it on purpose, right? But after that, if you're wasting your time, you can't get it back. That's something that'll never, ever, ever come back again. You can't ever buy it again. I'm emailing you now. Right on, Deja. Yeah, I'll get it in the mail here in the next day or two. I'll get it out to you. Do you feel like being high will change how the 80% path to survive quite differently, different mindsets? The most of the people are just going to have to deal with whatever it is that they are experiencing. Most people do not form path to actually experience on their own. Most of them are just waiting for something to happen to them. And, I mean, that's a lot of us. I mean, even I myself think about it all the time. It's like, man, what am I waiting for? I don't wait and go out there and do whatever the hell you want. But a lot of people are waiting. Like they're waiting for something to change. They're waiting for a better experience. They're waiting for that opportunity to show up. They're waiting. And unfortunate, the longer you wait, the more of the waiting energy you carry. And so therefore, you will always be waiting because you carry waiting energy. If you were carrying doing energy because you're out there pursuing and making happen, then you would be carrying the doing energy and not the waiting energy. So people who fall into the waiting energy end up waiting their entire lives because that's the only energy they know is that waiting energy. Once they get into doing, actually pursuing something, then they're in the doing energy. It's a whole different thing. They ain't waiting no more. All right. I am retired Marine. Will my government pension fail? CBS 1219, I would not stress about your government pension failing in the sense that you're not going to get paid. That part, I just don't believe. I believe that you will get paid for your pensions or your Social Security. Like, it doesn't matter. Any bill that the government has, they will be paying it. There's very little doubt in my mind that they can pay any debt, any bill, zero chance of default. Zero chance of default. The only problem that you're going to face is that we don't produce the real goods and services here in this country in order to exchange the benefits of that pension for real goods and services. That part, that part's very questionable, incredibly questionable. So in the sense, does it fail? No, you're going to get your money, but will you be able to buy anything? That whole different thing. Right? And I know people want to make those two the same thing, but they're not. They're not the same thing. Right? And in reality, they're the same thing. Like in your experience, they're the same thing. But when it comes to what's happening hey, mom just messaged me, cool. But when when it comes to the situation that is taking place within the banking, within the economy and all that other stuff, you as the individual experience the failure, but they're like, hey, we paid our bill. Right? I mean, you're already starting to see it, yeah. All right. I'd be worried about Social Security, but pensions should be good. I like the same thing. I don't worry about Social Security payments either because of the same reason. All right, it feels like we're in 2025 again when Trump talked about tariffs and high inflation expectations. It feels like it's almost the same. What's happening now? Boom, right? That's exactly right. As long as you can keep the supply chain broken. That's, again, videos that I had done a long time ago. The credible threat theory lines this up. Right? If they can keep the supply chain broken, they can keep the elevated inflation and inflation expectation, which was the goal from the very beginning. Right? We talked about it with. Let me bring up. Where was the damn Powell speech? Is that working now? No, Powell's speech just doesn't come up. That sucks. All right. But this was the goal from the very get-go. They had every intention on raising the inflation and inflation expectation. They had something called the makeup strategy. Right? The makeup strategy works best when the public understands, believes, and reacts to policymakers' commitments to offset misses in inflation from the 2% objective in the future. In particular, makeup strategies are most powerful when policymakers can influence the public's inflation expectations. This is directly from the Federal Reserve itself, right? In doing so, policymakers face a dynamic tension. Here it goes. Here's the problem. How do they push this inflation expectation and at the same time anchor the 2%? They must maintain long-run inflation expectations at 2% objective while at the same time moving short-run inflation expectations in response to the new strategy. I kid you not. The makeup strategy. Go Google it yourself. Right? I mean, I don't need to prove it to myself. I don't need to prove it to anybody. I'm trying to share what it is that the credible threat theory has to offer. That's what I'm doing. I don't need to prove my point anymore. I already proved it too many times, right? I'm here to share what it is that the CTT, what the credible threat theory has to offer. And when you think about some of these things that they had mentioned in their documents from the past, everything lines up. Everybody's expectations are elevated, and this is exactly what they were saying they needed to do, while at the same time anchoring a 2% long-run objective. Again, makeup strategy in the very first page. It's like, I don't know, it's not even in the first chapter of the whole thing. Chapter, it's like a storybook. Makeup strategies, August of 2020. It says, how robust are makeup strategies to key alternative assumptions? That's the name of the document. And it literally says that they must maintain long-run inflation expectations around 2% objective, while at the same time moving shorter-run inflation expectations in response to the new strategy. They want elevated inflation and inflation expectations. They totally got it. All these people, every one of them, all these people I really respect and admire. You know? Like literally all these economists out there that I respect and admire, and like I love them. They gave me so much in my life, like understanding of the policies, understanding of the Federal Reserve, understanding of economics, understanding of all this stuff. And as I started running on my own and diving into this stuff and coming up with the understanding of what it is that's happening with monetary policy, I realized I deviated away from all of them. Literally all of them. And I'm wondering why that happened outside of I did my own research. I'm not regurgitating a bunch of crap that they are all sharing with each other. I did my own research. I came up with these documents and I built an entire course. Right? There's nobody else who dialed it in like this. Literally nobody. And I am going to keep hashing it out. I'm going to keep sharing it with you, because I know once you get it, once it clicks for you, your investment strategies are going to change. Your expectations of your business are going to change. Your expectations of your job are going to change. The expectations of the administration are going to change, right? And your understanding of the Federal Reserve and the monetary policy is going to line up and become very clear. It's good stuff. How long will it be before OECD countries are forced to pay people to have children? What will we have to see happen before public sentiment goes that way and it becomes a political issue? Cantillon already addressed the fact that we have a drop in populations due to the fact that we have a rising standard of living, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. And if you think that the government is going to come in and change underlying economic forces, you're wrong. They're not. What's going to end up happening is that new money pours into the system. People raise their standard of living. When they raise that standard of living, having kids becomes a very difficult thing. Because now, if you have kids, it's going to lower your standard of living. If you have a low standard of living to begin with, you can have as many kids as you want. They don't lower your standard of living. But if you have an elevated standard of living, it becomes very difficult to have kids and maintain that elevated standard of living. And most likely, you are going to end up lowering your standard of living, especially if you live in a high standard living country, right? If you all have the highest standard of living, kids are going to be very difficult after that. Okay? It's good on the way up. As you're raising your standard of living, it's awesome. You can have just about as many kids as you want on the way up. But once you have raised it, once you are there, it's not so easy anymore. Hold on. Populations can be, okay, populations can, okay, here we go. Yeah, oh, wow, man, see, I'm getting really good at finding this stuff now. Okay. The increase in population can be carried furthest in the countries where the people are content to live the most poorly and to consume the least production of the soil. In countries where all peasants and laborers are accustomed to eat meat, drink wine, beer, etc., not many inhabitants can be supported. This is the reason why you find populations depleting in advanced nations. I'll read it again. The increase of the population can be carried furthest in countries where the people are content to live the most poorly and to consume the least production of the soil. In countries where all peasants and laborers are accustomed to eat meat and drink wine, beer, etc., not many inhabitants can be supported. That's Cantillon's essay on economic theory from hundreds of years ago. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. That's the reason. And you can just see witness of it. Just look at history. Like every poverty-stricken nation has tons of kids running around. All right. I'm moving to India and have 10 children. Okay. You can't have kids you can't afford. I mean, I'm not trying to say what logically makes sense to the person who is speaking the words of if you have more money, you can have more kids. Totally. I get it. Makes sense to me. Right? Now, we look at history. Is that any example of that taking place? No. Do we have a reason why it doesn't? Yes. How is it that this guy was able to recognize it? It's because he was studying economics from hundreds of years before him, and this was written hundreds of years ago. So, what do you think the reality is? Is it because having more money means you can have more kids? Or is it because if you have a low standard of living and the idea of having as many kids as you want doesn't lessen your standard of living, then that's exactly what you will do. Maybe one or two of those kids might actually be fairly successful and uplift you, right? Take you out of poverty. That's the reality, right? It doesn't seem logical. I get that part, right? When you speak it, it doesn't seem like reality, but that's what it is. You know? All right. I just love it. Why would you have kids you can't afford? See, again, you can't. I understand when you speak the words, it doesn't make this logical sense. But when you think about it from history, when you just look out there in the world for examples of it, it totally does make sense. If you have a lesser standard of living and you cannot lower your standard of living anymore because you're about as dirt poor as it gets, you can have as many kids as you want. It doesn't change anything. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, video of the little guys running around doesn't matter. Hey, you know. Imagine kicking your kids out at 18 years old nowadays. Oh God. Yeah, see, that's why it's different, right? It's way different. Are lumber selling at good prices? If you were in the market for lumber, I wouldn't hesitate. I would get out there and I would get that lumber while you can. I feel that right now, what lumber is priced at is about as low as it gets. It's been here for a long time. Like, I mean, months now. It's been trading between 550 and 600 per thousand. This is it. This is as cheap as it gets. Now, is there an opportunity for it to get cheaper in the future? And everybody's going to like, oh man, you don't know. There's going to be all this crazy commodity crashes and stuff like that. Hey, that's great. It's a wonderful story to hear. And I understand the macroeconomic version of it, that people have a generic blanket that they want to put on things. That's cool. I'm looking at it much differently. There's mill curtailments that have been running rampant for the last year, and inventory is incredibly tight. If this economy does follow the credible threat theory and ends up having the inflation expectation pulling that neutral interest rate higher and the economy becomes less restricted, I think lumber is going to be evident of that, as the demand for new construction is probably going to be picking up. Now, I know that seems very crazy for a lot of people to hear. Time will tell. Is it going to take 6 months, a year? I don't know. I always think this stuff is happening a hell of a lot faster than it does. So I really have to just kind of chill out and just kind of like, we're going to have to wait and see. I make these calls and then we'll see if they come true. I mean, I called out the whole thing with Jerome Powell the day that he was like, I'm going to be criminally charged, that day that he came out and he was all making that statement and scared and nervous, and then just lit everybody up on, this criminal probe into Jerome Powell and whether or not he lied to Congress about a damn project that doesn't even have anything to do with the United States taxpayer. It was so crazy to think. And now he's out there on yesterday's press conference acting like a gangster. Oh, I'll be sticking it out even longer than you think. You ain't seen the last of me. Right? Like, I mean, he totally went from like scared little child to like, total gangster. It was like, Yeah, well, does anybody actually believe this stuff? But I guess they do because they don't really have any other ideas. Unless you had followed the credible threat theory, then you have a whole other idea on what's happening. All right, wood maintenance is a good time. Apparently, my grandparents didn't worry about money with all the kids that's had. They were getting busy. Oh, yeah. What do you need money for if you're busy? All right. Is buying the stock nail a good time to buy? No. Is it all time low? No. Do you still buy some? No. Jamie, don't mess with that stuff. Like you do whatever you want, man. I mean, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You have to understand, nail is incredibly dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. It's a 3-time leveraged ETF. If the underlying asset doesn't move up, then nail falls. Not if the underlying asset goes sideways, right? If it goes sideways, nail falls, right? If that underlying asset falls, nail falls a lot because it's 3 times leveraged. The only way nail is a buy is if you're planning on holding it overnight because you're hedging against something else. That is it. It is a tool for investors to use to hedge against other things for an overnight sale, for an overnight hedge. When you think about what I did as far as like an investment, that is like you're literally taking a huge risk. When I did it because I was very confident on the spot that we were in at the time. I knew that the spot that we were in, the underlying assets were going to be moving up at that point. I didn't know how far. Actually, I thought that they were going to go further and longer than they did. So I was glad that I got out when I did. It's very dangerous. Do not mess with, I mean, mess with it all you want. I don't care. It's up to you. But don't follow my advice when it comes to buying that particular stock because there's literally nothing that I could offer you nor anybody else to hold that stock long term. None. Not even mildly short term. It's just like that's not the play. Right? Now, if you want to gamble, man, there you go. There's your gambling. But don't come to me and then cry because you lost your money. Right? That's not an investment. That's a speculation to be had. Right? And I'm not in a position in which that I feel that the underlying asset is going to be like moving up in a consistent fashion, which would give me the confidence to buy that. I don't even look at it. I don't even consider it. Not at this point. But I mean, it's 3 times leverage, so who knows? You might be able to nail it. Pun intended, right? Okay. Why buy risky stocks when there are better options to have good earnings and dividends? I kind of agree, J Pedro. I kind of agree with that. Like, being taken on some risk is okay, but that's like extreme risk, right? That's gambling risk. Taking on, decent risk or even, elevated risk, that's not that bad. I mean, you diversify your portfolio into things that are risky and less risky, but yeah, don't jump the gun. All right, do you think we're going to be in stagflation for a while? No. I think that what we are going to experience is elevated inflation expectation based on possibility of broken supply chains persistently into the future. Forever. Like there will always be some reason why the Federal Reserve can't seem to get down to the 2% target. Right? They'll always be elevated because that's the monetary policy is the ability to communicate about it. The stagflationary period, like I don't even believe that we have the inflationary period like a lot of people thought we did. Is there inflation? Absolutely. I work at a retail store. I see it every single day. But as people were like, oh, the dollar destruction. And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, well, what else could it be? And I'm like, well, lumber didn't go up. All right. And as people were pointing at the money printer and pointing at lumber, I'm like, you're going to get that wrong. You know that, right? Like if you're making those two connections, you're going to get it wrong. And then they did, because I was the only one who called it out. Said, man, lumber's going to go back down to a normal price, and nobody's going to be able to explain it because it's not the money printer that is doing it. And if you want to use the money printer as an excuse for the reason why lumber went up to its all-time high, can you please explain to me why it's now back at 2018 prices? I mean, did the destruction of the money go away, or is there still dollar destruction that's causing the inflation? Like, I understand that's other people's expectations and belief systems. That's not mine. Mine's on the supply side of things. Because when I look at it from the supply side of things, it makes lumber at 600 per thousand make a lot more sense. And I was able to accurately call it out for the last 10 years. All right. Now, I don't know what everybody else wants to think, but, I'm following my confidence that I have within my understandings of macroeconomics and the supply chain when it comes to lumber. And between that, I didn't care what anybody said on the TV, and I didn't care what any other smart-ass economist out there thought that they knew. I got it. I was listening to the TV, listening to these other people out there, and I'm like, they really just don't know what they're talking about. But that's okay. It sounds good. Yeah, I mean, it sounds excellent, actually. Like if you were to hear it, you'd be like, man, let me write that down, man. That's beautiful, But it wasn't right. Good thing gold and silver go up because of increased investment demand due to uncertainty and increased industrial demand and not inflation. Well, I mean, it goes up for a reason, and as long as we understand it from a way that does make sense, all right? Because everybody was just like, well, what about the money printer? And I'm like, the Federal Reserve had taken the Fed's balance sheet of $850 billion to over $4.5 trillion and then wrote massive documents on what they were going to do to try and create an inflationary scenario after that. I think it failed. I think the money printer failed miserably. Right? Like literally, I'm reading, I got all these documents that I share with you guys. All of those came after the fact that the Federal Reserve took a balance sheet of $850 billion to over $4.5 trillion and it failed. Right? That's what's scary as hell, is that money printer go burr doesn't work. Or else we would have seen inflation back after the great financial crisis. It never happened. It didn't happen the way the Fed needed it to. Right? And I love how people want to push back against it. And the people who push back against it, instead of choosing to understand why it is that the Federal Reserve was writing these documents. See, here's another thing. People say, well, they're just lying. And I'm like, they're lying to who? Me? Like, I'm the only one who's reading this stuff and talking about it. There must be lying to just me. Like, this whole credible threat theory was a lie to convince me personally and a handful of people that I could share here on the YouTube with? Come on, right? Of course not. This is the accurate information. This is the one that's accurate to what's going on with the Fed's policy. Everybody else is making it up, All right. Speaking of which, what did Mom have to say? Let me go and read Mom's message real quick. Oh, Mom's so sweet. Okay, cool. Mom watches every single video that I have ever made, every minute of every one of them. It's amazing. My mom is the best. All right. Defense stocks are good because we have to replace all the weapons used in Iran in oil stocks because prices are going to be up for a while. Okay. There's a good stock that pays pretty good dividends. 1819. Well, that is pretty good. All right. Scrapper. No, one guy made it up, but everyone has their own spin. No, not one guy made it up. I don't know what you're talking about. But that's okay. I also have the best mom. Never say never. Warren Buffett is sitting in 380 billion cash at the moment. Recession when inflation expectations is high. No, I just don't think we're going to have recessions like we used to. No, not in the same sense that it used to exist in the past of what we would have typically understood a recession to be. Because when you think about a recession, generally it's a drop in consumption, aggregate consumption. right? Aggregate demand actually is what it is, right? And the consumer used to be the working class individual. So when we lost our jobs, the consumer went away with it. But now the consumer's at the top 10, 20%. So if you have them kicking ass and they're consuming like crazy, where is it that the recession pressure comes from? Like, I understand the rising unemployment is a painful experience for a lot of people. But then again, if you go and you look at unemployment charts right now, and although the concern about what Jerome Powell said, remember that's the deployment of particular words and sentences. Anyway, understanding that the unemployment is still historically low. And that it's not really us who is the consumer. So even if we did lose our job, the consumer could still possibly go at it, right? Being at the top 10, 20% of household incomes. Where is it that the recession actually comes from? And I mean, the recession would come from us losing our jobs and then us stop spending, right? Loss of aggregate demand. But if the aggregate demand can pick up with elevated inflation expectation, raising the neutral interest rate and making the economy less restrictive for the top 10, 20%, and they start spending, where does the recession come from? Right? You see why there's no recessions? The recessionless recessions? It's because even if we lost our jobs, it wouldn't start a recession. It used to be that would definitely trigger a recession, but we were the consumer. We're not the consumer anymore. In fact, we don't even really matter. We're pretty much irrelevant. Except that we drive the truck and flip the burgers and serve the beers. We still do that part, right? We actually make it happen. But any kind of real benefit and enjoyment from the economy, like, we're out the game, right? It's not for us anymore. And it's hard to accept that. It really is. It's like accepting defeat almost. But I'm not feeling defeated. I feel like, okay, well, that's what everybody else is going to do. I got other plans. Right? So, is mom up in here? I didn't even see her. Where is she? Oh, you just Global's just talking now. Okay. George Gammons quotes Zero Hedge and CNBC articles. Yeah, I don't know what, like, George is a great dude. Like, George and I are buds for a long time now. And I'm very impressed with everything that George has ever come up with and talked about. I have no idea if George is following the credible threat theory. I haven't talked to him about it. I don't know if he's been following the neutral interest rate. I see a couple of things that's popped up on his Twitter feed. It seems kind of in line with what I've been saying about the dollar strengthening, how there's a dollar demand around the globe that is far higher than what people have ever given a consideration for. I don't know how in the world he would not be able to have that view, knowing who Jeff Snyder and Brent Johnson is. So, I think in a lot of ways, our views kind of overlap. And here's the difference that really comes down to that most of the people who study economics are usually fairly elevated, right? They got the millions of dollars, lots of assets. They're talking about how it is they got there. These are the people who generally talk about economics, are these people who are like very well established and elevated, right? And they look down on the economy. They literally look down on it, right? They're up here. They have no other choice. They have to look down, right? Now, when you're boots on the ground and you're reading through the macroeconomics and you're going to look at the economy, you look up. And it's a different view, right? So you got somebody on the ground who's talking about the daily experiences, the phone calls they're getting, the deals that they're doing, boots on the ground scenario. And then you have other people who are going through economic data saying this is what those people just experienced. And they're talking about that. You see the difference in it? Like, one person's talking about their experience that they're having, understanding the macroeconomics out there, and able to describe some of the things that they are seeing from the boots on the ground. And then you have other people who have collected that data 30 days later and are now talking about it. That's two different views. Right? Very similar. One person's waiting for another person to live their life and their experience so that they could read about it to understand what it is that's happening. Other people understand it and see it in real time. And it ends up being a different view. Right? I mean, does that make sense at all? I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Yeah. People are like, oh man, the demand for, construction and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I get the phone calls that are going to tell me when that has changed. When the change has actually occurred, it'll show up in a document. There's a difference in the view. Right? All right. On top of that, Warren isn't an index investor like most people should be. He needs cash to be able to buy when there's an opportunity, but he is aware that cash is the dirtiest shirt in the laundry. First time catching live stream. Well, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate you being here, man. All right. Let's see here. It's hard to know if we are in a recession because the economic reports we get are not accurate. I agree with that, but then again, what difference does it make? I mean, do you have to have them tell you that you're in a recession? I mean, it feels pretty recessionary to me, right? Like as an average everyday working person, I'm down there at the lumber yard and I'm talking with everybody else out there. And I'm like, dude, does it not feel like really damn slow? And everybody's like, yeah, it's about as slow as we've ever seen it. And this is what's happening right now throughout the entire economy when it comes to new construction because the house prices or the house sales are in the toilet. There will come a moment when that changes. I don't know when. I don't know what that'll look like. I don't know exactly how to describe what it is that you need to look for in order to see it. But I'm assuming that when it does happen, you're going to probably find it evident in lumber. Lumber is very tight supply right now. It's incredibly sensitive. If there's any kind of pickup in demand for lumber, it'll be quite obvious and very quick. And the only reason why there would be an uptick in demand for lumber is because things are starting to change within the economy, right? Like if it's starting to pick up, it's going to show signs of change. Correction, the least dirtiest shirt in the laundry. Yeah. 24-year master carpenter, you have to remodel everything in custom, so broader work scope. I don't understand this. How is the top 20% going to support eating chicken nuggets at McDonald's? They don't. I don't know where you think that's the case. Like they're not going to keep McDonald's open. I don't know where. That part's not it. All right. If you think the top 20% eat at McDonald's, they don't. I never said they did. I don't think anybody ever thought they did. And besides, when we're talking consumer, we're talking generally. It's probably business consumer spending. That's really ended up being the case out there. You have to think like those people don't mingle with us. You know that, right? Like they're not down at the bar, they're not grocery shopping, they're not there. They're like you don't see those people. So when you're like, you're thinking, well, all the consumers, I'm looking around, I don't see any of the 20% around me. That's not what I'm talking about. All right, I'm not talking about the masses down there at the feedlot. That's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the massive consumption that has taken place at the top 10, 20% of households is far beyond what we can even possibly comprehend. If you have a day job and you've been living that day job your entire life, it is impossible to even comprehend on how much consumption they are actually doing. Okay. I am in the steel processing industry. I work for Reliance Steel. I've been seeing the change from steady, constant business, and now it's been nearly in half. It's been cut nearly in half for the past 8 to 10 months now. Yeah, well, I mean, the problem that we face there is that the idea of elevating tariffs to bring manufacturing back to the United States was never a possibility. It was never real. And in fact, it was more damaging to the people here in the United States when it comes to manufacturing because you can see the slowdowns and the evidence of it out there. And now I know that's really heartbreaking for a lot of people to hear because they were really hopeful and dreaming that there was going to be this return of Renaissance and have all this wonderful manufacturing experience come back to the United States. I never thought that that was going to be that way. I never thought that. Never once. Like, not during Biden administrations, not during Trump's administration, nothing. Never. Why? Because the underlying economic forces prevent that from happening. Now, what was a real outcome from that? Elevating the inflation and inflation expectation, which was the whole goal to begin with. It's not about bringing money back into the United States. It's about getting money out of the United States. When you have a reverse tariff or a counter tariff, and then you have to remove your tariffs and then give the money back, where do you think all that money? Like, here it was supposed to be this huge win for the taxpayer. And now there's an interest payment that's costing the taxpayer on these refunds that haven't been paid back. Every day that they're not paid back, it costs the taxpayers that much more. You don't get to keep that money. All that tariff money that was going to be a huge win for us is now costing us interest payments. Like, it's costing the taxpayer money to have done this tariff thing. Yeah, but it wasn't really intended to actually bring manufacturing back. It was intended to raise the inflation expectation. Solved. It was meant to get dollars out of the United States. Definitely happening, right? It's sad. And I loved it because people got so mad at me. They're like, dude, you don't know anything about tariffs. Tariffs totally work. Tariffs are awesome. Awesome tariffs, 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 tariffs. And I'm like, what are y'all going to say when they're deemed illegal? Like, they have no argument whatsoever. Gone, right? I think that's probably another reason why people leave my channel, is because I'm always proving it right. I'm always proving the credible threat theory right. Like, not every single time. Like, there's some stuff in the past. Like, we were reviewing a video the other day where I was saying, like, the Fed funds rate wasn't going to go over 2.5%. But I kind of admit to that stuff, and I say, okay, well, what did I get wrong about this? And then understand it and level up the credible threat theory that much more. So for me, I never once ever believed that tariffs were going to work or were even legal. Like, how many times did I say it? What tariffs? And even now, they're like, the tariffs from the last few months, and I'm like, what? We're still dealing with those things? Like, people are just going to accept it into their life and just say, oh, no, let's just go ahead and just have the tariffs anyway. What's going on here? Why is this happening? It's because it elevates the inflation and inflation expectation and totally makes the economy right in line with the monetary policy, which is what the Federal Reserve was looking for. Right? It's pretty crazy how irresponsible the people in control are financially and all other ways. I think that they put off an impression that they don't know what they're doing. I think they know exactly what they're doing because they wrote all these damn documents describing exactly what it was that they were going to do and try and hide it from the people. And I thought, there's no way. And it worked. They did it. They're totally doing it right now. Do you know anybody personally that is in the top 10% that are spending what are the habits of something you learned from that you did not know at the time? Um, I'm not exactly sure where the question is, but when you think about your house and you think about all the stuff in your house, you got a lot of stuff, right? Like, I didn't have a lot of stuff when I moved into this house, and it's amazing how much stuff you really need for a house. Like, it's a lot. It's incredible how much stuff you need for a house. Now, if you have several houses, that's a lot of stuff, right? But now, what if you have a ton of businesses and I'm not just talking like $1 million business, I'm talking $100 million businesses, right? And you think about all the stuff for your office, all the stuff for the buildings, all the stuff for the equipment, all the stuff that's going on for that business to operate every single day with, and it's this huge, giant, high-rise building or something. Can you imagine the consumption of just this single building comparatively to even a giant neighborhood, right? It's like the amount of consumption that happens in the business aspect of things is so massive comparatively to like an individual trying to figure out how much they put in their house. Right? It's like it's not even a comparable thing anymore. Do you think we'll move to a digital currency soon? I don't know about soon, but yes, definitely will be. And do you think banks have stable coins? Well, it'll all be done in stable coins. I think that's going to be the next, like, move for the dollar into a digital component will be through stable coins, not necessarily like a central bank digital currency, like a lot of people think coming directly from the Fed, but instead to have essentially a company use dollars and treasuries to issue out a stable coin and then use the government to regulate that, while at the same time the Federal Reserve can conduct their monetary policy like they always have, because anything that is being backed by the dollar, the monetary policy will transfer right into it. So they can continue operation like they normally have, let the government regulate stable coins, and then let the private sector create the stable coins in itself. And I think that's the direction in which it's going to go. Alrighty, guys, we've been at it for an hour. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. I really wanted to break down some more of the credible threat theory to share with the people how it is that the Federal Reserve was very much intending and wanting to have elevated inflation expectations in order to raise that neutral interest rate. And to find documents where they were saying straight up that they would use specific words and sentences communicated by the central bank that would be quickly incorporated into asset prices, I think the last 24 to 48 hours is great evidence of that. And so as we think about what it is that the Federal Reserve was wanting for their monetary policy and what is now being delivered, it is exactly in line with the credible threat theory and everything that I've tried to share. All right, let's read a couple more comments and we'll call it quits. It will be all phased in as it currently is. Yeah, you're right, Deja. People probably won't even notice that it even happened. Yeah. Please help me understand what it means to tokenize things. Okay. Let's see if we can do this simply. If I produce, if you produce something and you tokenize it, it's essentially making a digital representation of what that item is. All right. I guess this is probably like one of the easiest ways to do it. So let's say, for example, I want to tokenize, I don't know, like these dice right here, right? Why aren't the dice up? Let's put the dice up, right? Say we want to tokenize these dice. The moment that the dice are created, actually, here's a better way to do it. Let me screw the dice. Let's think about this from lumber. Like lumber is going to be an easier way to understand this, right? So let's imagine that we are going to tokenize lumber. Now, the moment that the tree is cut, right, this thing is going to go into a blockchain record. So they're going to know exactly the tree that fell because it's going to get stamped and that tree is essentially tokenized, right? Because the seller of the property has sold the tree using coins, right? Using digital component of it. So now this digital component of it is going to track this tree, right? Anybody who wants that tree has to have that token. Does that kind of make sense? It's not an actual physical token, it's just a computer entry. But now if the token is now representing that tree, and that tree is going to transfer down the road, the person has to buy the token, right? And then it'll transfer down, to the next, whoever, the mill or whatever it is, they grab it, right? So now they have this tree that was essentially tokenized, and they're going to tokenize the tree themselves because they're going to cut it up into lumber, right? So now the tree gets cut up into lumber, and every stick of lumber has its own token that's attached to it. Maybe a barcode or a QR code or something on the stick of lumber itself represents that, hey, this piece of lumber is represented by this token. Now, the interesting thing about that is that with that token, you could track what tree that came from. Okay? And so if you want to buy that particular piece of lumber, you have to buy the token. Once you have the token, you own the piece of lumber. Now, this seems very confusing, and how is it that I even operate in the system? And it won't. It just fly right through as if nothing ever changed. You just do your regular transactions. But when you tokenize these items, something very interesting can happen. is that not only will you know the day that the tree got cut, what time it got cut, where it got stored, who hauled it, the truck it got hauled on, the tires that were on that truck, the driver of the truck, the fuel that went into that truck, every second that truck was moving, you'll have all these pieces of components all tied together simply by having that tokenized chunk of lumber or that tree being transferred. Right? Pretty soon, all the other components start attaching to it. I understand that a lot of people would be like, what's the point of that? Right? Like for a lot of people, it would be like, man, that's very confusing and that doesn't make any sense. Can you imagine that one day there's a E. coli breakout? They know exactly what stakes have it or what stakes are in question. Not only do they know what truck and what came in and where it's at, they know exactly what packages they are. Not only do they know exactly what packages they are, they know what customers had purchased those exact packages. It can now contact those customers and say, hey, don't eat those steaks. Huh? See, this is how my mind's spin on the tokenization. For a lot of people, they're going to explain it a whole lot differently. To me, it's a tracking, tracing thing. Okay? All right. Would you have to sterilize the lumber? Serialize the number. I would imagine yes. But then I'm already finding lumber with serial numbers stamped on them. Like you can see the run of them, and 100,582, 100,583, 1,000, it's just like they're serial numbered. Um, all about traceability and assets. I prefer to deal with dollars and go to buy the tree. Yeah, but eventually you're going to get to the point where the dollars are not going to be able to be accepted, right? Like they'll still have them, but the problem that you're going to face is you're going to go down to the bank and they're going to charge you a fee to deposit, and then they're going to charge you a fee to withdraw it. And so it's going to make dollars cash a big time nuisance. I mean, they're just like people aren't going to want to use it. All right. Wow, awesome. Didn't know that lumber had serial numbers. Not all of it. I'm just saying some mills have serial numbers written on them. Not all of it does, though. Not that I've seen. Maybe they're starting to, but a few mills do that. Yeah. You have to research everything. Otherwise, what's the point? You're absolutely, God, Deja, you're so right about that. You really have to research everything. I mean, you hear somebody's point and you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to have to do the research myself. And you know what I find is that a lot of people will like watch 3 news articles or 3 news broadcasts and then form an opinion and say, I did my research. Like, I've never really found anything on the news that was accurate to anything that I've ever researched. Like some stuff, like you can get little bits and pieces that filter through, but for the most part, the narrative is completely inaccurate. Like there is nothing, like literally nothing that I have ever done any kind of deep research into that I found accuracy on the mainstream media. Not one thing. Especially like it really became evident to me with lumber. Like nobody had the lumber game right. Like literally nobody. None of the experts, none of the lumber experts, nobody. Not a single person. They all had it wrong. And what I laughed about it, it was just like you're all kind of regurgitating the same message. It's just kind of restating it in your own opinion, but it's still the same message that is being delivered out there. Nobody's changing it up because they didn't do any real research. They're just trying to sound smarter than the person that they heard the information from, right? So when you, I mean, it's the truth. It's really what's going down. So when I do my own research, I mean, I know I'm going to stutter. I know I'm going to say things that are whatever, sound weird. I can't help it. I didn't go to school to learn how to speak proper English. I didn't go and learn communications or anything. This is just me going for it. So when I dived into this research and I started forming this opinion that was different from everybody else's, I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care that it's different from anybody else. Right? I mean, I've always had an opinion that seemed to be different from everybody else's, and my lumber opinion was by far accurate, so I'm going to stick to my guns. My research is by far more accurate than any news broadcast out there. You're crushing it, UE. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys and all your support for this channel. Got to keep an open mind, but be logical. Well, the thing is like I love when somebody says, "Well, here, have you ever thought about this thing?" And I'll go and I'll research it, and I'll actually realize it was like, man, this is a nice little additional component to my theory, right? Or it's just like, no, this is an outdated, or it's an inaccurate, or there was something else that I see that then says it's not useful, right? I mean, I've seen it, I looked at it, I dove deep into it, but then realize that a lot of times people have the information inaccurately, or they're describing something that doesn't necessarily take into consideration that there was a historical event that proved that wrong. A lot of it is just simply like the population thing. Like, I don't understand why it is that more people don't understand the population issue like that of the Cantillon essay. Like, literally nobody ever talks about like how it is that poor nations have kids and rich nations have population problems, right? Except for Keon, who addressed it in literally one paragraph, right? A very simple, easy paragraph. Nobody sees it that way. Oh, it's birth control issue. Oh, it's education. Oh, it's in the water. Oh, it's all this stuff. And I'm thinking, no, it's your high standard of living. That's it. All right. You discuss the Cantillon effect frequently, but how do you think the Cantillon effect could be mitigated, or is it unavoidable in the current monetary system? It's unavoidable. The Cantillon effect is not a strategy. It's a description of the cycle. All right? That's what it is. It's a description of the cycle. It's not a strategy. It's not like, hey, I mean, he does say if governments were to hold back on their money and then save it for emergencies, and there would be different outcomes. He does mention stuff like that, but it's very 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 little inside of the entire essay, and it's not very important, even the communication about it. It's more like an observation than it is an actual suggestion. And so when I think about the Cantillon effect, I think about it in just that fashion. It's cyclical. When you rise as an industrious person, an industrious country, an industrious city, it doesn't matter what it is. If you rise from an industriousness, you will increase your standard of living. Very few people who earn more money leave their standard of living low. Almost all of them elevated. This is like human nature. Like, even I would do it. If I was to double my income at work, I would probably go out and buy a new car, right? Like, these are the things that would end up happening. So when you think about, well, maybe not a new car, but you get what I'm saying, because I like having old cars. But you get where I'm coming from on this. If you have a situation in which that the industriousness has risen the standard of living, every time you're going to start spending more money on consuming items, that then drives the prices up. Added consumption creates the supply demand imbalances that drives the prices up. Again, industrious people who have earned a lot of money raise their standard of living and start consuming. Once they start consuming, supply demand imbalances and prices start to move up. Foreign competition starts to move in. You can't stop this from happening. If you try, it looks like a boot on the face of humanity. So don't try and stop it from happening. Go to one of those communist countries out there and see how awesome it is. So what's going to end up happening is foreign competition is going to start moving in, and domestic manufacturers are going to start moving out. The more the new money pours in, like the experience that we're getting here, the more of an inequality wedge is driven as ever increasing amounts of domestic manufacturers leave and ever increasing amounts of foreign production comes in. This is the unfortunate situation we now face. To try and mitigate that is an impossibility. It does not work. The only thing that's going to happen into the future is either more debt issuance, which will have more separation between the rich and the poor, and the war and the problems that we face from it. All those things will continue onward, or we turn the new money off and everybody falls into pain and misery. Those are the only two paths. That's it. There's nothing else available. Now, we can try to imagine some sweet awesome moment in which that everybody got around a campfire and held hands and we sang a song and we were able to do it right. Okay, it sounds like a wonderful movie or something or a story to tell, but there's nothing in the world that is ever going to lead down that path, right? More debt, more war, more separation between the rich and the poor, or complete and utter poverty and misery for everybody. That's it. All right, we have to accept that. Once you have accepted it, you figure out where you are in that position, inside of that cycle, so you can make the best and most appropriate decisions for yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. Literally, nobody's showing up. All right. Thank you for the live stream, Simon. Keep repeating the message. I will do. I will, because there's no other message out there when you have the right story. There's nothing else to tell, right? Like, I don't know what it is. People are like, man, can't you change your tune? No, if I changed my tune, I wouldn't be telling the right story, right? Like, I can try and tell the story from different angles, but I'm going to be telling the same story because there's only one right story. Simon, how do we keep our freedom once everything is tokenized and the dollar replaced with digital currency? First of all, Jay Pedro, I don't know if you really have freedom, right? You don't, I mean, to be honest with you, you don't have freedom because you can't retain your freedom if you don't, like, you don't get your freedom from somebody else, right? Like, your freedom exists right here, right now within you. And if you don't feel that you have it or you're worried about it, then you don't have it anyway. So it's already gone. Let me ask you something. Can you spit out the Bill of Rights? Do you know what the Bill of Rights are? Like the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. I'm not trying to belittle or anything like that. Like, I'm not trying to poke fun or accuse or anything of that nature whatsoever. That's not my intention here. But I really have to ask an honest question of all 100 of you out there right now. Does any of you really know the Bill of Rights? The first 10 amendments to the Constitution, right? The rights of the people to be secure and their persons, houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. No warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, particularly described in the places to be searched and the places to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. Show me the warrant. Show me the signed warrant. See, understanding rights and understanding what those rights mean for your freedom means that nobody else out there gets to tell you what they are. Only you get to tell you what they are, and you tell us what they are. But if you can't tell them and you can't tell yourself what they are, then you don't have them. They don't exist. Did you know that? They only exist to the people who know them. Freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right not to have to quarter troops less during a time of war, right? The fourth one, the one that I just repeated, the one that you only need to know verbatim, right? The rights of the people to be secure in the person's houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures. Number 5, right? The right to a due process, the right not to have to incriminate yourself. The 6th is the rights of the accused in a criminal case, and the 7th is the rights of the accused in a civil case. 8 is cruel and unusual punishment. 9 is that there is rights that are not specifically enumerated inside of the Constitution. And 10, state local powers supersede federal law. These rights are not to be negotiated, and they're not up to interpretation from anybody else. They're not up to debate. They're up for me to know, internalize, and then carry with me at every second of every moment of every single day, including the moment that I am voting. Nobody knows what they are. It's like the monetary policy. Right? And so when I think about what it is that it means to have freedoms, right, I don't know what it is that's out there for everybody else to have. I already got mine. I know what they are. I carry myself as a free man on this planet. Now, most people have no idea how to do that. And yes, I am subject to the straw man corporate identity. Right? But I carry myself with the understanding and the attitude that I know exactly what it is and how to conduct myself. You know? Very few people know this. I thought your stream ended already. Yeah, I meant to end it about 20 minutes ago, but I just can't stop. Yeah, Simon, but they have to be honored by the government, otherwise they are worthless. JPage, you have to understand, man, that went out a long time ago. Your government does not honor this. Your government does not honor this. This government does not behave within the confines of the Constitution. They care less about your rights. The only person who is going to care about them is you. You have to stand up for them at the time that they're being infringed upon. If you cannot do that, then you don't have them. You cannot expect the government to do anything about it. It's not their job. Your job is to tell them what's going on. Nobody does it. We cannot do it any other way. If we attempt to do it any other way, we might as well just pitch the Constitution into the river. I am not expecting anything out of my government. I tell government what's going on. And since nobody else wants to get on board, well, I guess I stand here by myself. Isn't that the whole point of the Constitution, to limit our government? Yeah, that's exactly right, but nobody does it. Nobody holds our governments to the confines of the Constitution. Nobody does it. Nobody votes in a way that says, if you do that, I'm not going to vote you in. In fact, I'm going to vote for the person who is staying within the confines of the Constitution. Anybody wants to stand up and want to participate in our government and stay within the confines of the Constitution so I'd actually have somebody to vote for? Anybody? Stand up? No? Not a single person? Okay. Never mind then. I guess I'm out. Right? You want to stand up? Do you believe in the Constitution staying with the No, you don't. Neither you or anybody else in Congress or Senate? Not a single one of you, huh? All right, well, I don't know who the hell I'm going to vote for because it ain't going to be any of you people. All right. You're getting worked up tonight. Yeah, I guess I am. I should probably chill. All right. Joe DiMaggio. Should we vote for Joe? How do we hold our government accountable to the Constitution? Stand up and be thrown in jail? Well, okay, so here you go. Obviously, it's not going to happen, because if that's what your worry is, then yeah, no, that ain't going to happen. We're not going to have a constitution, and you're not willing to stand up to your government. Right? You know what the tree of liberty gets watered with, right? But you're not willing to stand up to your government, so there is no tree of liberty to water. The only people that can reasonably fight it are people that can afford to be arrested and doing legally protected things like recording police and holding a protest without permission. Absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. You can conduct yourself every single day. If everybody in their absolute intent followed the ideas of the Constitution with their mind set on it, and then conducted themselves in that way, it would force government to behave within that line. Right? You can make it happen, but everybody has to do it simultaneously. Nobody knows, nobody cares. Right? I conduct myself, I will not even cross the street unless the sign says, you know why? It's because if I have authority come up and say, hey man, you just broke the law, I want to know who you are. Well, if I cannot give them any reason to articulate a crime that I've committed, committing, or about to commit, then this is not a consensual conversation, and I will be on my way. All right? Because I didn't cross the street unless the sign said it was okay. I don't break the law. I act and behave in a way that authority cannot come to me and ask me questions, because I don't answer questions. All right? That's the difference inside of this. People conduct themselves in such a way that it literally makes government irrelevant. How many people can do that? None. They don't know how to. They were never taught. They don't know that it even exists. You know? Serious question. Are unions helpful or harmful to the employees in the long run? My dad was a big-time union. He believed in the union big time. I don't know. You got, like, back in the day, the unions were too big, and you had, like, busting the unions apart, stuff like that. So, like, what was that, back in the 20s or 30s or whatever? So, I mean, I honestly, I mean, I think they're kind of a good thing in the sense of like, employment power and, being able to negotiate for that kind of position and stuff like that. But I've always personally taken it upon myself to know my position within the company, right? Like I'm my own individual. I can excel. I can move in different ways, and I'm not going to be limited by a union. And not saying that unions limit people. I'm just saying like, you have to stay within the rules and the guidelines or whatever. All right. Your government is why you're free, folks. No, it's not. It's you. Your government is why you're free, folks. It's you why you're suffering. You're why you're suffering. I got my mind set easy. Your government is why you are free. Nah, well, I mean, I guess if you still believe that the government is of the people and by the people and for the people, then yes. But I don't believe that's the case anymore. And in fact, I believe that most of the government essentially is in an attempt to have the majority of the people making it really awesome for a handful of people. Right. And now understanding how that works doesn't mean that you can't be in that position where you're actually benefiting from all that, but it's very much in that way. Right? Like I don't know where it is that this country has any intention to do anything for 80% of the people. 20% of the people seem to be really catered for. All right. Authorities can always stop and detain you for probable cause. Oh, no, they can't. Right? They have to have probable cause. What is the probable cause? See, this is the thing. Like most people just bow down to it. I don't. Like I don't even conduct myself that I would even the probable cause to search me. I mean, it's just like I understand that people conduct themselves in such a way that they have done pissed off the cops enough that now they're harassed by them. Right? That wasn't me. I didn't do that. I don't break the law. I don't piss the cops off. I don't do stuff like that. In fact, most of the cops I know, I'm pretty friendly with. I mean, we're a small town, so like you got you kind of know everybody. That I mean, I don't have any issues. But then again, I didn't do anything to create issues. I don't conduct myself in a way that creates issues. Like I don't have issues. Right? So when people are like, "Oh no, the cops will just beat you up and pull you over and do all this other stuff," and I was like, never had that experience. Not once. Not in my 50 years of living on this earth have I ever had any kind of experience with the police officers like that. And the only time that I ever had any kind of issues with them, I was a little kid, like 15 years old, drinking out in the woods, running away. That was my big, evading the cops. Is they were trying to bust our party and I wasn't coming out of the woods and I ran into the woods instead. Like that was the extent of it. So when you conduct yourself in such a way that you don't just piss the cops off, right? And you just do the speed limit and you behave, then you don't have issues. Generally you don't. You generally have to put yourself in a position in which that you have an issue with them, you know? Simon, you're making way too many assumptions that as long as you're doing nothing wrong, you can't be harassed by the police officers. That's what's indulging in a hunch. I'm finding it very difficult to understand that throughout my entire history of existence on this planet, now granted, I lived in Astoria a long time, but it's not the only place I've ever lived. I lived in California and I've traveled all over the place. I've been pulled over many times. I have been questioned by the cops for some situations that I was involved in. I have had to deal with the police a lot. I don't have issues with the cops. I don't talk to them in a way that has issues. I just don't have issues with police officers. I watched my buddy who literally would have the entire town wanting to murder him and have the cops show up at his house and then look at the cop right in the face and say, is it illegal for me to cuss you out right now for whatever reason I want to because you're standing on my property so long as I don't threaten you? And the cop was like, yeah, I guess. He was good. F you, and he kind of, whatever. And he talked to the cops however he wanted to. He talked to whoever he wanted to, however he wanted to. And I think to myself back then, I think, man, see, here's somebody who knows what the limits are. He knows exactly what it is that he could say and do to get himself in trouble. This dude was arrested. He was arrested in a dramatic battle with the state police at the state capitol. Yeah. So when I think about what it is that the police are doing to people, I think to myself, what is it that you're doing to put yourself in a situation? Do they just pull you over at random on the highway and beat your ass up? That seems very illogical. Did it happen? Sure. I've seen a lot of people who've talked about videos on it. You know what else I've seen? People who are screwing with another human being. You know you can piss a human off, right? You know you can piss a human off, right? That happens, right? So if your intent is to piss a human off, that will happen. And then you got to deal with a pissed off human. So now here's a huge difference in which that most people are going to end up having to face is that they don't deal with humans properly. They're not respectful. They're not appropriate. They're usually belligerent. Right? And then you end up having confrontations with them. I can't imagine that if you lined up all the police officers in the entire country, that you would have 99% of them would say, man, we just want people to behave. And we wouldn't have any issues. And then you would have 1% of them who want to kill people. Right? That very well could be the case. 99% of them want to do the right thing. They want to be good. They want to protect and serve. They want to be helpful and useful. Everybody does. Right? But you can piss a human off, and there are some people out there who are just nuts. Right? And sometimes they take the form of a cop. Do you know Sheriff Joe Arpaio? Yeah. And his reign in Arizona? I have stories for months. All right. This is like, here's what I find very interesting about the whole thing, is that people want to accuse the cops of being bad people when they are literally in the midst of the worst of society. Never once ever getting the respect that they deserve for having to deal with the pits of society. The only time they ever get noticed is when they are doing something that is noticeably painful to the other people that are out there. Very rarely does anybody ever take into consideration that these people have been dealing with the worst of human existence. And now you expect them to behave with you. Right? And so when I think about it, it was just like, did we offer these people any assistance at all? Or do we just complain about them? Like, I'm sure you would want them to show up if you asked. Hey, I got problems here, man. I really need some help. You really want them to show up then. But when we have issues that they are facing every single day, trying to keep the peace for the people out there while they're dealing with the pits of society every single day, never getting any hope or respect or appreciation for what it is that they are doing. And then you have an issue that comes up and you say, man, these people are just horrible. Right? Is that the case that we now face today? Yeah, I get it. White privilege. All right. So I don't get the cops who harass me like somebody else out there of a different color or a different race or something of this nature. I get it. Right? I happen to be in a position in a location in my life that I don't have to deal with this sort of issue on a daily basis like other people do. Right? I get it. Have you ever thought about what it is that these cops are facing from the issue that you are now also creating by not helping, not dealing with it? Like, you got to understand, you're in the middle of it too, and you're watching it. How many people are here? Listen, let's set the cops for aside for just a second. Let's just kind of address it from the homeless direction. How many people out there complain about the homeless but do anything at all? Nothing. They don't do anything. They want to complain about the homeless, but they don't want to actually do anything. Right? They want somebody else to do something. They want to vote for somebody to pay a bunch of money. They want the rich to pay their fair share. But when it comes time for them to actually do something, oh no, they can't. Sorry, I'm not available to do that. It's the same thing with your neighborhood. It's the same thing wherever you live, wherever you go. Right? Oh man, there's a horrible existence over there, but that's their problem, not mine. Somebody should do something about it, not me. Right? And then we complain when nothing gets done or when what does get done is not what you feel is appropriate. But you weren't there to help. You didn't do anything to try and make it any different. I see it every single day. People ask me all the time, what is it that we need to do about the homeless situation? I said, I don't know. Let me go down and hang out with the homeless for a while and figure it out. I went, served lunches, hung out, talked, conversated, asked them what it is that they need. What can I do to help you? And when I realized the situation that they are facing is one that cannot be solved, I looked out there at everybody who was trying to help, and I thought to myself, you're actually hurting. You're hurting the situation. They don't even know it. Have you ever thought about that? Like maybe what it is that you're doing is hurting the situation as opposed to helping, even though you might think that you're helping? All these people out there in the Portland area who got together, formed these committees to dump a bunch of money into dealing with the homeless problem, and the problem got worse. There's no money left, and the problem got worse. Huh, who called that out? Blaming the exterior, the outside on the problems that you face are forever going to be there. Like you can find all the external problems in the world. Crooked cops and crooked government and crooked everything out there. Yeah, it's constant. It's in the face of everybody. Now you can let it absorb you. You can let it take over. You can make it rule your life, or, right? You can figure out how it is that you can fix this situation, move out of the situation, team up and actually do something about the situation. And then once you recognize that the situation cannot be solved, then it's your responsibility to exit. What do you expect the cops to do? To be better? Right? Be better at what they do? You ever thought about maybe conducting yourself in a better way? You get an exact reflection of what it is that you're thinking and feeling. Everybody reflects your inner. Whatever it is that you're feeling on the inside, your inner self, that's a reflection. Everybody on the outside. All the attitudes, all the behaviors, all the mistreatments, that's all a reflection of the inside. You look at people and they're like, man, how come they're always winning? They're always getting it. They're always like successful. They're always, on top. It's because that's what they feel on the inside. I gotta go, guys. This was fun hanging out, but I'm done. I've been hanging out here for a while now. We did so much. So I just really wanted to share some more of the credible threat theory with you guys to make sure that everybody is well understanding of the situation that we now face within this monetary policy, knowing that the elevated inflation expectation is exactly what the Federal Reserve was looking for, hoping for, wishing for, dreaming for, and actually got. And now it seems to be very, very prominent within the communications of the macroeconomic conspiracy theorist, economist crossover, whatever you want to call it. All these people out there sharing this information want to push up that elevated inflation expectation. And I think to myself, man, that is an absolute win for the Fed. So, you know, we can watch it in real time. Oh, man, what is going on here? Alrighty. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. We kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there for a while at the end, but that's okay. I felt like winning and I started winning. I don't want to lose it. Listen, just enjoy the ride, right? Don't worry about winning and losing. Just enjoy it. Just have fun. Whenever you're having fun, people will realize it. They'll see it. If you're not having fun, people are going to recognize that. If you're enjoying what you're doing, like truly enjoying it, the energy will come out and people will want to be engaged in that, right? And so it's not a matter of being like successful. Like you always want to be successful, and don't want to be a loser, right? So you definitely want to be successful, but it's not necessarily about being successful. It's about that journey to success. Like anybody that you ever asked or talked to or whatever that ever made it big, right? And you ask them, it was like, what was the best part? Getting there, right? The work to get there. That was the best part. All right. We meet off YouTube also. Yeah. All right. Have a great evening, everybody, and thank you. Yes, thank you, Deja. Yeah, but mama didn't raise no loser. Right? All right, Pete. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate everybody. What is this one? Millennial Mike been a giant help to me in getting on the property ladder and continues to be an invaluable business partner and great friend. Channel link incoming. Yes, absolutely. Take a minute and go through the comments and click on Millennial Mike's YouTube channel and go and check him out. Give him a shout out. Send him a little love. Subscribe to the channel, do all the stuff. Let them know that All Nighter and UE sent you. All right, you have about as much rights as a cop holding a gun to your head tells you have. See, this is so weird. This is so odd to me. The issues that I've ever had with the past, they didn't come unprovoked. And everybody that I ever know who had issues was provoked. My brother was mouthing off to a cop one time. This was a long time ago too. God, I bet you this was probably 30 plus years ago. And he was at the bar, and I don't know where, like he wasn't going to his car or anything, but he was out on the street, and the cops were talking to him, and he just started mouthing off to this cop, and the cop just decked him right in the mouth. Pow! Just cold cocked him right there on the spot. Yeah, and the next day he was like showing me. He was like, "God, you're just blasting me," And I'm like, "For what?" He was like, "I don't remember what I was saying." Like he was just mouthing off to him, and the cop just blasted him. Pow! Just finally had it with him. Right? Because you're dealing with a human. And that's on the mean streets of Astoria that happened. Right? It's gonna happen anywhere. All right. Love the chat's ability to reel Simon back in. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.